Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We are on page 508, and the chapter is the knowledge and the ignorance, beginning with the line, in the Vedantic thought.
Yeah. Okay. So, we will, first of all, we will summarize the previous paragraph and then we will come to this and we will discuss what he is going to do, what is his intention, Sri Aurobido's intention. Yeah. So, this is the 9th paragraph of the chapter, and Sri Aurobindo is saying, he doesn't always say, we have to guess what he is saying. One thing you have to do when you are reading Sri Aurobindo is, once you have read the paragraph, you have to ask yourself, what is he trying to say? And then you make a question to yourself. What's he answering? So, this is an exercise, if you do it becomes very interesting. So, you have a question on top of the para and then he is answering that question. It's for you to make up the question. So, here he is telling us that on the one hand, I see the physical world is real. Then on the other hand, I see that it is unreal in different circumstances. So, what is causing this? And we have seen in the previous paragraph, chapter or even earlier, he says that the problem is not with the world, the problem is not with the perceiver, but the connection between the two. The perception goes on changing as well. So, now he is saying, let us look at consciousness, which is the one that is playing tricks on us. At this level, consciousness is A. You go to consciousness, it becomes B, C, it goes on changing. So, what is that power of consciousness? Let us examine consciousness. We will see what it is capable of and what it is not capable of. Okay? So, 9th paragraph. Therefore, we must examine very carefully this power of ignorance and come to a conclusion about its origin and its nature. So, that is what is creating the problem. So, we will have a look at that. But first, what do we mean by ignorance? The first distinction between ignorance and knowledge is found in the Rig Veda. The Veda seems to say that Vidya is the power of truth, the right, Satyam, Rhythm, and the ignorance is an unconsciousness, an achitti of truth and right. Ignorance is said to be the opposite of knowledge, and it is productive of false and adverse workings. An achitti of truth and the right ignorance. Ignorance is said to be the opposite of knowledge, and it is productive of false and adverse workings. Ignorance is absence of divine sight, which sees the supermental truth. The divine sight sees the supermental truth, but ignorance is not having that sight. It is the opposite of knowledge. Knowledge only sees the divine truth. But let us note that non-perception does not imply total nescience, which is the infinite sea of inconscience from which the universe has emerged. But ignorance could definitely mean a limited or false knowledge, or a knowledge founded on division of the indivisible, and this false knowledge is supported by the sons of darkness and division, who are the enemies of the divine, assailants, robbers, coverers of light. This may be designated as undivine Maya, which creates only illusions and falsities. But originally, Maya was conceived as a divine power to create real forms. Later, the meaning of Maya was degraded to mean power to create falsities and deceits. The Vedic idea of ignorance, if couched in metaphysical language, can mean a dividing mental knowledge which does not see or grasp the divine unity, but works rather on the contrary principle of division and separation and partial relations. Ignorance then becomes a power that sees divisions and takes them as ultimate realities without reference to the background, ever-present unity. To the background, ever-present unity. Knowledge unites, ignorance divides. Ignorance divides, but be it noted that in the Vedic conception, ignorance is still a knowledge, though limited, and because limited, capable of being intruded upon by falsehood and error. Ignorance thus becomes the opposite of knowledge. It becomes the opposite of knowledge. It is not actually in the Veda they are not opposites, but they are capable of becoming opposites. That's what he said in the previous one. Now we read what we have to read today. In the Vedantic thought of the Upanishad, we find the original Vedic terms replaced by the familiar antinomy of Vidya and Avidya, and with the change of terms there has come a certain development of significance, for since the nature of the knowledge is to find the truth and the fundamental truth is one, Veda speaks repeatedly of it as that truth and that one. Vidya, knowledge in its highest spiritual sense, came to mean purely and trenchantly the knowledge of the one. Avidya, ignorance, purely and trenchantly the knowledge of the divided many, divorced, as in our world it is divorced, from the unifying consciousness of the one reality. The complex associations, rich contents, the luminous penumbra of varied and corollary ideas and significant features which belong to the conception of the Vedic words were largely lost in the language, more precise and metaphysical, less psychological and flexible. Still, the later exaggerated idea of absolute separation from the true truth of self and spirit, of an original illusion, of a consciousness that can be equated with dream or with hallucination, did not at first enter into the Vedantic conception of the ignorance. If in the Upanishads it is declared that the man who lives and moves within the ignorance wanders about stumbling like a blind man led by the blind and returns ever to the net of death which is spread wide for him, it is also affirmed elsewhere in the Upanishads that he who follows after the knowledge only enters as if into a blinder darkness than he who follows after the ignorance, and that the man who knows Brahman as both the ignorance and the knowledge, as both the one and the many, as both by the experience of the multiplicity beyond death and by the knowledge, takes possession of immortality. For the self-existent has really become these many existences. The Upanishad can say to the Divine Being, in all solemnity and with no thought to mislead, "Thou art this old man walking with his staff, yonder boy and girl, this blue-winged bird, that red of eye. Not seemest to be all these things to the self-deluding mind of the ignorance. The status of becoming is inferior to the status of being, but still it is the being that becomes all that is in the universe." Quite difficult, we'll have to go through each sentence clearly to us.
But very beautiful.
So, as we said, in the Vedas, avidya and vidya were not opposites. But later on, in the later Upanishad, and even in the Upanishad, they are not opposites. Wait a minute. Sorry. In the Vedas, there is avidya and vidya, they are opposites. But in the Upanishads, they are not opposites. Okay? So that's what it is. So how did this change of meaning come about? He is going into a little philosophical history. Okay, so in the Vedantic thought of the Upanishad, we find the original Vedic terms replaced by the familiar antinomy of vidya and avidya. With the change of terms, there has come a certain development of significance. So, the opposites have now not become opposites, but complementary aspects, obverse and reverse of a coin. Okay, so has come a certain development of significance. For since the nature of the knowledge is to find the truth, and the fundamental truth is one. So now you must remember the idea of vidya and avidya is now he is bringing in the one and the many. So when you perceive the one, you are in knowledge. When you perceive the many, you are in ignorance. So the meaning of ignorance changes. It's not what we normally understand it to be. Ignorance is a nomenclature, if you want. It's just a name. You have a name, I can change your name, but that doesn't change the you. So, it's just a question of the. So, when we say ignorance, we mean not able to see the one. That's what it means. So, its meaning is slightly changed. For, since the nature of knowledge is to find the truth, and the fundamental truth is one, the Veda speaks repeatedly of it as that truth and that one. Vidya, knowledge in its highest spiritual sense, came to mean purely and trenchantly the knowledge of the one. Avidya, ignorance, purely and trenchantly the knowledge of the divided many. Divorced, as in our world, it is divorced from the unifying consciousness of the one reality. The complex associations, the rich contents, the luminous penumbra of varied and corollary ideas and significant figures which belong to the concepts of the Vedic words were largely lost in a language more precise and metaphysical, less psychological and flexible. Big sentence, we'll have a look at it. Okay.
Yeah, because it's very interesting.
Yeah.
How one is lost.
Yeah. Okay. So, in the Veda, the trenchant division of the two is not there. I said the opposite first, but it is not there. Then when it comes to the Upanishads, which is the Vedantic thought. By the way, there is a Vedic period, then little later on, there is the Vedantic period. There is a Vedantic philosophy of the Upanishads. The Vedanta is a combination of three philosophies. The Upanishads, there are about 110 Upanishads. There is the Bhagavad Gita and there is the Brahma Sutras of Badarayana. These three are considered to be the Vedantic philosophy. There are minor variations, but they are all part of Vedanta. Okay. The complex associations. Now there you are. One is knowledge and one is ignorance. But now it's changing the meaning. Knowledge means seeing the one and the truth. Ignorance is not being able to see the truth and the many. Knowledge sees the one and the truth. Ignorance sees the many and the untruth is not the truth. Incapacity to see the truth. The complex associations, the rich contents, the luminous penumbra of varied and corollary ideas and significant features which belong to the concept of the Vedic words. So, he is using the words complex associations. On the one hand, when we say knowledge, we understand one thing, but now he is changing the meaning to knowledge means understanding and seeing the one. So, it is not our previous idea, it has changed. Okay? That is why he is saying the complex associations, the rich contents, the luminous penumbra. Now, Sremda is so fond of oxymorons. Here you have another one, luminous penumbra. Umbra, darkness, penumbra, half darkness, like twilight. Okay, so luminous penumbra of varied and corollary ideas and significant features. When Shankara speaks of Vidya and Avidya, he means something. The Upanishads mean something. The Vedas did not see them as opposites. So there is a whole range of complex ideas. That's what he's saying. Okay. Corollary ideas and significant figures which belong to the conception of the Vedic words were largely lost in a language more precise and metaphysical, less psychological and flexible. He is talking of the Upanishads. Still, the later exaggerated idea of absolute separation from the true truth of self and spirit, of an original illusion, of a consciousness that can be equated with dream or with hallucination, did not at first enter into the Vedantic conception of the ignorance. There you are, very clearly he is saying that. So, this dream and hallucination, all this is in Shankara, which he calls the later Vedanta. The earlier Vedanta was, you could say, the beginning of Veda. After that, shortly after that, it became the Vedantic philosophy. The earlier Vedantic philosophy, he calls it Upanishads. But when it comes to Shankara, he introduces the idea of Maya, and he introduces the idea of the power of the divine to create illusions. So the idea of illusions and all that comes in with Shankara, and it is he uses the words, Shankara uses the words dream. Okay, so that's why he is saying that the meaning of Vidya and Avidya, knowledge, and this goes on changing slowly.
How close is this to Sri Aurobindo?
Sri Aurobindo uses, he gives all these and they are all valid. That's the whole point, that they are all valid. That's why he is using the word complex association, rich contents. You can't define only in one way. If you are at that level, you can use what you are saying is right. If you are at the other level, that is right for that consciousness. It goes on changing. Okay. Even the word Maya goes on changing its meaning. At the highest level, it is the power of the divine to create forms, real forms. But that, when it comes down, it undergoes the law of degradation and diminution, Maya. So it gets degraded and it is creating forms which are not really real. They are like images, photographs. Still, the later exaggerated idea of absolute separation from the truth and spirit. You asked about Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo says that they are not opposites, but they are complementary aspects. If you take light and you go on diminishing the light, making it less and less and less and less, when you come to darkness, it is still light in a different way. So that is Sri Aurobindo's view. And for Sri Aurobindo, it is absolutely necessary that he has to see it like that, because otherwise a divine life on earth is not possible. If the two are not connected, how will you have a divine life? And Sri Aurobindo wants and says that there can be a divine life on earth. Therefore, he has to say that they are the same in different grades. That is Sri Aurobindo. Okay? It's clear, na? If they are not connected, the divine can never come down here. Separated, total separation. So, still, the later exaggerated idea. Now look at that. Shanti is not saying it is wrong idea. He's saying it's exaggerated. The illusion is real, but it's not a permanent illusion. The world can be seen as unreal, but if you go to another level, you don't see it as unreal. So it is an exaggerated idea. The Buddhists exaggerated, the Mayavadins exaggerated. What's exaggeration? The world is really illusion. There is no reality to it at all. That's the exaggeration. Of an absolute separation from the true truth of, and note the words true truth, because this is true at its own level. That is true at its own level. So it goes on like that. Okay, so that's what Mother also says about the animal life. She says the animal life is perfect at its level. It may not have intelligence, but it is perfect at that level. Okay, so true truth of self and spirit, of an original illusion, of a consciousness that can be equated with dream or with hallucination. This is what this Shankara, who says that the physical world is like a dream. That's why he mentioned that. Now the meaning is changing slowly. Did not at first enter into the Vedantic conception of the ignorance. If in the Upanishads, now he is saying how broad it is, okay, how rich and many-sided it is, that's what he is saying now. If in the Upanishads it is declared that the man who lives and moves within the ignorance wanders about, stumbling like a blind man, led by the blind, and returns ever to the net of death, which is spread wide for him, it is also affirmed elsewhere in the Upanishad that he who follows after the knowledge only enters as if into a blinder darkness than he who follows after the ignorance, and that the man who knows Brahman as both ignorance and the knowledge, as both the one and the many, as both the becoming and the non-becoming, crosses by the ignorance, by the experience of the multiplicity, beyond death, and by the knowledge takes possession of immortality. He is referring to the Shvetashvatara Upanishad and the Isha Upanishad. Okay, so in the first one, he is saying that the man who lives and moves within the ignorance wanders about stumbling like a blind man, led by the blind, and returns ever to the net of death. Returns, rebirth. After death he goes there and comes back. Returns to the net of death. Which is the net of death? The physical world. Okay, that's what he is meaning. Which is spread wide for him. That's one way of looking at it. It is also affirmed elsewhere in the Upanishad that he who follows after knowledge only enters as if into a blinder darkness than one who follows after ignorance. Now,
that's very interesting.
This is the Isha Upanishad.
Yeah.
The Isha Upanishad says that if you are in the physical world, level 1, you are in ignorance. You don't see the one, you see the many as unreal. You go to level 2, the spiritual planes of consciousness, now you see the one and you are in knowledge. But if you limit yourself only to level 2 of the knowledge, in a sense, your ignorance is even more than the other one, because you are insisting now this is the truth. It is not. You go to the third level, knowledge, the spiritual planes are real, the physical world also there is a reality. So this is the Isha Upanishad which is saying that if you are a yogi and you have gone to the spiritual planes of consciousness, not the highest, the second level, and you say that this is knowledge, this is the truth, you are mistaken. So, and Srimad is saying greater truth. See, in a commentary, he has commented in the Essays on the Gita, which I read today only, so it's fresh in my mind. He is saying that the mistake of the yogi who thinks that the knowledge is the only reality, it is even worse than the materialist who thinks that the world is unreal. Why? Because when you say the world is unreal, it doesn't change anything. But when you say that non-action, quietism, peace without action is the only truth, you are going to mislead and there will be confusion in the physical world. That's why it's an even worse mistake. Sounds very funny, but that's exactly what it is. Spiritual knowledge, if it is exclusive, it can be more dangerous than the materialistic idea. The materialistic idea does not change anything, but this can change your way of thinking and you will be misled. Whereas the physical world also has got its action is real, inaction is real, both are connected. That's what he's saying. Okay, so that's why he's saying, returns to the center of this, which is widespread, spread wide for him. It is also affirmed elsewhere in the Upanishad that he who follows after the knowledge only, level 2, enters as if into a blinder darkness than he who follows after the ignorance. So the one who is only following the ignorance, that means the world is real, if he says, then that the man who knows Brahman as both ignorance and knowledge, as both the one and the many, as both the becoming and the non-becoming. The becoming is level 1, constant movement, and the non-becoming is level 2, where there is no action, no movement, static immutability. But the one who knows the real truth is, that also is real, this also is real. The action is real and the inaction also is real. Blind man who knows Brahman as both the one and the many, as both the becoming and the non-becoming, crosses by the ignorance, by the experience of the multiplicity, beyond death, and by the knowledge takes possession of immortality. So, this is, in one sentence he has told you the entire Isha Upanishad. The Isha Upanishad says that when you are in the physical world, it's your opportunity to use the ignorance as a ladder or a springboard and go to the knowledge. And once you are in the knowledge, there is again the other one, that you now start going higher up to see that the physical world also has its reality. 3 levels, very clearly mentioned in the Gita. Kshara consciousness, Kshara means mutable, action. In the physical world there is constant action. There is not even a second where there is no action. Constant movement. And you go to the knowledge, you go to the self, no movement at all, the consciousness is static. So, once you are there, now you have to understand, you can go to immortality, he says, you understand that this gradation is there, truth is there everywhere in different grades. Okay, so and by the multiplicity, beyond death and by the knowledge, takes possession of immortality. For the self-existent has really become these many existences. The Upanishad can say to the Divine Being in all solemnity and with no thought to mislead, in the physical world, the Brahman is, thou art this old man walking with the staff. It's not an illusion. The old man also is Brahman. Yonder boy and girl, this blue-winged bird, that red of eye, not thou seemest to be these things, but the self-deluding mind of the ignorance. Now, it reminds you of the very first sentence of the first chapter of the Life Divine. He says there, matter is not a representation of the Brahman. It is the Brahman itself. There is a big difference. The matter is a representation of the divine. A photograph of Narad is not Narad. Okay? But it is not, matter is not a photograph of the Brahman. It is the Brahman itself. Okay? So that is what he is saying here. You are not seeming to be these things, to the self-deluding mind of the ignorance. The status of becoming is inferior to the status of being, but still it is the being that becomes all that is in the universe. Okay. The status of becoming, in a sense, the world is inferior to knowledge, to level 2. But it is at level 2 itself which is becoming the physical world. Quite a paragraph, because it depends on so many different philosophies. The Vedic philosophy, the Upanishadic philosophy, the later Vedanta of Shankara. Shankara is 8th century AD, 8 centuries after Christ. So by that time, although Shankara did not mean, he has been misinterpreted, and when he uses the word Maya, he means the power to make forms, but delusional forms. Shankara does not say that the physical world is unreal, like the Mayavadan, but he says it is the truth in time and space, limited in time and space. The truth is outside time and space. Okay, then I just tell you one thing, what he is referring to. The first one, where he says the blind led by the blind, that is in the Mundaka Upanishad. Andena naiva niyamana yatandha. The blind being led by the blind. That's the nature of the ignorance. Okay, so, and the Shvetashvara Upanishad, where the Upanishad is saying, everything here is a Brahman. And Shankara agrees with that. Sarvam khalu idam Brahman. That woman, this small child, that old man, this red-eyed bird, that blue-eyed bird, everything is Brahman. So it's a direct contradiction of the idea that the world, ignorance and knowledge are different. That's the thing. But the development of the separative distinction could not stop here. It had to go to its logical extreme. Which is the logical extreme? Buddhism and Mayavada. Completely different. Knowledge and ignorance are not connected at all. So, the separation became a real division. Logical extreme. Since the knowledge of the one is knowledge and the knowledge of the many is ignorance, there can be, in a rigidly analytical and dialectical view, nothing but pure opposition between the things denoted by the two terms. There is no essential unity between them, no reconciliation possible. This is not Sri Aurobindo's ideas. He is giving you the idea of when you take this idea to its extreme limit. This is illusion, that is reality. So you can't play with words and say, oh, there is a connection between the two. Nothing of that sort. Logically, they are opposites. So that leads you to Mayavada and Buddhism. In a rigidly analytical and dialectical view, nothing but pure opposition between the things denoted by the two terms. There is no essential unity between them, no reconciliation possible. We have to be very careful that this is not Sri Aurobindo. You have to refer to the first sentence. But the development of separative distinction, that's what he is describing. Okay? Therefore, Vidya alone is knowledge, Avidya is pure ignorance. And if pure ignorance takes a positive form, it is because it is not merely a not knowing of truth, but a creation of illusions and delusions, of seemingly real unrealities, of temporarily valid falsehoods. Now, this is exactly what he meant by the rich associations and many ideas and complexity. This is what he means. Okay? Note carefully. Pure ignorance, not knowing the truth and the one, takes a positive form. It is because it is not merely a not knowing the truth. There in the first one it was, if you don't know the truth, that is ignorance. Now it's completely changed. It's the opposite. It is anti-divine. Okay? Not merely a not knowing, but a creation of illusions and delusions, of seemingly unreal realities. Seemingly real unrealities, of temporarily valid falsehoods. So this is Shankara. Yeah? The falsehood which you see here, I am seeing that chair and I think it is real. It is not real. It is only a photograph of the reality. But he is saying temporarily the falsehood is valid. When you are in this world, that chair is real to you. So temporarily, time and space, it is valid. The falsehood is valid. How subtle it is. So, obviously then, the object matter of avidya can have no true or abiding existence. Abiding existence it can't have. One day it will disappear. Okay, so. The many are an illusion. The world has no real being. Undoubtedly, it has a sort of existence while it lasts, as a dream has, or the long continued hallucination of a delirious and demented brain, but no more. So, the one has not become and can never become the many. The self has not and cannot become all these existences. Mayavada in Buddhism. Brahman has not manifested and cannot manifest a real world in itself. It is only the mind, or some principle of which mind is a result, that thrusts names and forms upon the featureless unity which is alone real, and being essentially featureless cannot manifest real feature and variation. Or else, if it manifests these things, then that is a temporal and temporary reality which vanishes as it is convicted of unreality by the illumination of true knowledge. One image will make this very clear what he is saying. The reality is a featureless infinite. Take the cinema screen. White, no color, no end, no border. Featurelessness. This is the reality. So what is the physical world? You are throwing images on the screen and you think that the images are real. This is normally in the Vedantic philosophy they use the word images in the mirror. But now a better image is the cinema. The reality is the cinema screen, featureless, no description possible, but absolutely real, infinite, eternal, static. In the world, you are throwing images on it. Who is creating the images? Maya or the mind. That is creating these images, and you think that to be real. Okay? So, this is and also it is a very interesting description of the physical world and the experience of the self. You are looking at a cinema. There is a sad scene. You start, those are weak emotionally, they will cry. If there is a funny scene, they will laugh. You are identifying yourself with the images. You are in ignorance. Step back a little and say, why am I crying? That's only an image, it has nothing to do with me. You are in the self. You have separated yourself and you are seeing the self. The images are not real at all, they are just images. That's
so what is it that is feeling? What is it that is feeling the sorrow or the joy?
The soul, the consciousness of the soul. That's why some say consciousness and soul is the same thing, and some others say, no, it is the soul which has consciousness. The mind has a consciousness, the body has a consciousness. So slight difference is there between consciousness and soul. You can say there is a difference, you can say there is no difference. So, next time we will start with our view.
Yes.
Now when Sri Aurobindo says our view, he means his own view, always.
Yes.
Okay? So we'll start with that, our view.
Thank you, Ranga. Namaste all.